You Booked It, episode 84. Hey, entertainers and performers of the world. I'm your host, Dane Reese, and welcome to You Booked It, where I chat with inspiring entertainment professionals 7 days a week. By digging into their journey, we're going to discover everything you need to do to have a successful entertainment career. You know, because training usually skips that part about how to actually make your skills work for you in the real world. Fellow entertainers, my drive here at You Booked It is to share the inspiring and incredible journeys of successful entertainment professionals. We're here to support your journey. So go to youbookeditpodcast.com and join the You Booked It email community, where we dig deep into truly actionable things you can be doing right now to book that next audition, submission, or gig. If you enjoy this free podcast, please show your support and search for You Booked It on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app, where you can subscribe so you don't miss an episode, leave a rating, and review. And now, let's do this. Okay, let's get started. I am excited to introduce my guest today, William Landsman. Are you ready for this, Bill?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Having grown up on a small farm in South Dakota, Bill's journey could not have been further from the acting stages of the world. After getting a master's degree in plastics engineering, his first job landed him in Orange County, California. One acting class later, he was hooked, and for the last 18 years has been acting all over the world. Bill holds an MFA in classical acting from George Washington University. He started Eclectic Bison Productions in Singapore and currently produces Improv-Anopolis, Singapore's most professional improv company, and is founder of the Impact Actors Studio. When he's not acting, which with the current state of the world is quite a bit, he enjoys spending time working on and driving his 1990 VW Westie. Bill, that is a quick intro of who you are and what you've done, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself? Fill in the gaps.
Absolutely. Oh man. Thank you so much, Dane, for having me on. This is fun.
My pleasure.
I think this is one of those things right now, definitely feeling that need to connect with people, because I've been thrown back. I'm back on the farm. I'm back in South Dakota just because of the things that have been happening with COVID-19. It's just, I found myself back home living right now. I'm bouncing between family members, staying in someone's basement, here in my van at other times. So yeah, back in it. But I think that is one of the things about this industry, and I know we've talked about this in the past, is you have to be a bit adaptable and ready for a little bit of anything. You don't know what's going to happen on set. You don't know what's going to happen. You might be acting in a field somewhere, or one time I was acting in LA in an alley. You never know when you're going to be called upon to do and where you're going to do these perform. So I feel like right now it's definitely the world is feeling that, which is tough, but at the same time, it's kind of part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's move on to this next section here. And Bill, look, I am a sucker for a good quote. What is your favorite quote you'd like to share with everyone?
Okay, so my favorite quote, and this is something I do in a lot of I teach improv. And one of the things I always tell my students is suck more. It's one of my favorite things and they usually laugh, they snicker, but I say to them, I want you to come in here and suck. Because if you suck in rehearsal, you're not playing it safe. You're not just sitting, you're touching. What I always say to them is you have boundaries, right? And I want you to touch your boundaries, which is going to be uncomfortable, but you push this boundary out. And then in the next week, 2 weeks, whatever, that boundary's out a little further. So by allowing yourself to suck, your boundary gets to be more. So that's my fave.
Yeah, I love that. And you're so right. We all have these invisible boundaries that we essentially put on and impose on ourselves, isn't it? And we have to keep pushing those extremes, because that's also where all the really cool stuff happens.
Oh, for sure. for sure. And I think one of the things that I see with my students, you know, and I have to remind myself day in and day out as well. The nice thing is I try and create an environment that's safe for them to fail in. So we might not have that in our day to day, but it is a good thing to keep reminding yourself. It's realistically, if I look a fool right now, who's going to remember in a week, 10 days? Most people who care about you or want to see you succeed aren't going to care that you said something wrong in life or tripped or did something. Or most of the time, if you take a risk, most people are like, in your mind, you're saying, oh, I'm taking this risk and I failed. But they'll say to you, they're like, you took the risk.
Yeah, they're more of it in awe of that.
Exactly. Exactly. For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And let's move on to this section here. And Bill, of course, you are an entertainer. I'm an entertainer. And I think that you'd agree this industry can be one of the most subjective, brutally honest, personally emotional industries in existence. And you know as well as I that in order to create and have a successful career in this industry like you're having now takes a lot of dedication and hard work. And while, yeah, there is an outrageous amount of fun and excitement being an entertainer, doing what we do, there are also our fair share of obstacles, challenges, and failures we are going to experience and we're going to have to move forward through. So tell us, what is one key challenge, obstacle, or failure you've experienced in your career, and how did you come out the other side better because of it?
Yeah, that is a really good question. The one that pops up for me is so back in 2000, I'd say 2008, 2007, 2008, I was cast as a puppeteer, but like a very physical puppeteer on Walking with Dinosaurs. So with that, I wore a 105-pound suit and then would have to puppeteer this thing like running around. We were running in venues like the United Center where the Chicago Bulls would play. Your stage is an arena. And so one of the things that would happen in that show is if we ever we would come in with everything. So the show would come in, flooring, barriers, everything, lighting. We came in with everything. But sometimes they couldn't plan for is we would put this staging on ice hockey arenas. And what could happen is it could get a little slippery. And so I got into the show quite quickly. There had been a few injuries in the show because you're in this suit and you can't see out in front of your face. You can only see out to the side and it's a very small hole. And your proprioception is not developed. You get into this thing and you don't know where you are in space. So I got into the show, started doing it. They had an injury, somebody was sick, and I said, well, I think I can do it. I think I can jump in. So I did a week of shows and everything went well. Then I'm up in Vancouver, British Columbia, doing a show in front of 10,000 people.
Whoa.
And I'd done the show, I'd done rehearsal, but I didn't quite have the feel, just the nuanced feel for this thing. So I got into the show, and there's this dinosaur that's laying in the ground, and I'm playing a raptor. So I run up as a raptor, and we're supposed to eat on this carcass. And then we're supposed to run around it to this point that's 20 yards ahead of us. As I was going around it, I caught my foot on the tail of the dinosaur that was on the ground. And at that point, I didn't have the wherewithal to know, okay, just push through it. I felt it and it tripped me up. So I literally ran myself into the ground. And my knee hit the ground. I pretty much just sprinted into the ground and my knee smacked the ground. And then I'm laying on my side in this dinosaur suit, so disoriented. And they called these guys Raptor Recovery who would come and get you. And they helped me up. And by the time I got up, the show was continuing to go on. And then they got me up and the other Raptors continued the scene. I got up and then I joined the scene and I had so much adrenaline in my body that I puppeteered the head and then I started running off, and then that's when I felt it. My knee was pretty banged up. I hit my knee pretty hard. And actually, if you go online and type on Google or YouTube, Vancouver dinosaur blooper, you'll see this accident. So it's online. So my accident was online. So this led to one of the toughest I loved that show. Absolutely loved it. So I stayed with the show for another 8 months. But what started to happen is I kept trying to work through the pain, and my left leg got bigger, my right leg got smaller. But I think I was in a bit of denial because
Right.
I absolutely, it was a great show to be on. I loved the team, I loved the crew. We were a family. I had always loved dinosaurs since I was a kid. But then one night we were in where was it? New York City. We were Madison Square Garden. And my whole body had gotten out of whack. I'm running off stage and the leg on the dinosaur held up and then it threw me off. And I remember walking off set and I think I'm gonna have to leave. I'm gonna have to leave this gig. And I ended up I did 6 months of physical therapy after I left, and it never quite came back. It took me another 4 years, I would say, after that whole process until I got into another suit like that. But it taught me a lot about when you wanna I think as actors, we always wanna help and we wanna perform. And what it taught me is like sometimes you might be ready physically, but you might not be ready proprioceptively, emotionally to do a show. And so it added a bit, and I'd come from sports. I played high school football, college football, was very active. So I understood injuries, but I think we only have this body once. And I think what it really made me sit back and think it can happen in an instant. And then it's something you will deal with for what I dealt with it probably, and I'm still dealing it with today. Not the knee isn't the problem, but I have things within my body, my hip, my left hip. It's like it's still there. And now that's what, 2007, 8, 2008 to now. That's 12 years.
Yeah.
These things will affect you. So it definitely, when I go into something and there's physicality, I approach it with caution. I'm always that old dude. When I say old dude, I'm sure there's older people out there listening to this. I'm 43, but whenever I'm talking to younger actors, I say, just take care of yourselves. It's your body, it's your right. But what I would say that I gained from it is an awareness of my body, an appreciation of, again, this is it. This is the one body we get, and you need to take care of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no one gig, no one anything is worth destroying your career over. And if you do have an unfortunate accident, to do what you need to do to make sure that you can heal as best as possible and to be very aware of that. I also remember in shows throwing myself this way and that way and bruising myself, and it got a good reaction. If you got to be doing that night after night, it's just impossible. You never fully recover from the night before, and you just keep breaking down over time.
Hmm.
And you're so right. You only get this body once. Treat it with care.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And it's a tough thing though, that, and again, that I look at pictures from that time and think, man, I was in such denial. I have a picture of my legs, and I kept thinking that, oh no, the pain's going away, so it's getting better. But I think what I was doing was I was compensating in other parts of my body to take away the pain. But then in my mind, it's like, oh, no pain means it's good. But in actuality, it wasn't good just because there was no pain. And that's a tough one. That's where I think in other places I've learned is finding a friend, or you have a couple of trusted, I like to think of three touchstones, three people who you trust, like really trust, in asking them, what do you think about this? Because it's funny, you'll tell yourself stories.
Yeah, we can justify anything in our minds.
Exactly. You will justify it and think, oh no, I've dealt with worse. And you might have, but then it's different time, different thing. And wearing that suit, it took a lot of physical effort. And then my body became so strong around it. Then it was like these things were ready to break because they had to take on so much of the load rather than taking it on evenly.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you need to also, beyond being aware of your own body and respecting that, to also know that it's okay to bring that up to the powers that be, whoever you need to communicate that to from a logistical standpoint, or a dance captain, or the producer, anything, whoever that person is for you, it's okay to talk about that and bring that up and to
Hmm.
not be afraid of that because it's your body and
Yep.
it's not worth destroying over a job or a contract or a few bucks.
Yep. And that, I think that sometimes is the thing, is we get into this and we think, oh, but this is such a good paying job. But I will say this, at the end of the day, no paycheck is worth, you'll, if you're worth your salt, you'll get other work. You'll find, you'll make it, but again, it's harder to get that physicality back post injury. So take care of yourself.
For sure. Brilliant advice. And let's move on to a time that I like to call your spotlight moment. That one moment in time you realized, yes, I am going to be an entertainer for a living. Or maybe it was, yes, this is what I need to be doing as an entertainer. Tell us
Yeah.
about that.
Oh man, that's a good one. Okay, this kind of goes back. It was a, I remember, so I was an engineer and I'm working as a full-time engineer, plastics engineer for a medical company, but then I took a class. I took an acting class and then I took an improv class and then I thought I've done these two things, I should just go out and audition. And I remember my first audition, and I've never had an audition like it since. The guy kept bringing people up. It was an open audition where everyone was, which you don't get very often, but everyone was there. There were 20 people all auditioning, and he kept bringing people up. And I remember thinking it was fun. I was nervous, but then I left the audition, and he said, "We'll call you guys and let you know." And I remember how much I how nervous I was waiting for that call. I was sitting at my desk at work working on nasal cannula, but every few minutes I thought, I wonder if I got this. I wonder if I got this. I wonder if I got this. And nothing came in, nothing came. And then I finally called the guy and he's, oh, sorry, I gave the role to someone else. And I remember walking away or putting the phone down and I felt I was so crushed. And I thought, I'm never going to put myself out there like that again. I'm not going to, oh, that was the worst thing ever. And I sat there and something in me, like a couple minutes later, I don't know what it was, like in this small span, something in, and it's weird when people talk about this. A voice was like, screw that. You're going to go out and you're going to audition more because you're just going to get out there. And I think that was that moment that I realized, and that was it. I just started doing audition after audition, book stuff. And this was all like community theater in Orange County. But to this day, some of the best theater that I've ever done. And I learned so much. And then it grew to a point where I said, that's it. I'm quitting my job. I'm going to become a full-time actor.
That's amazing. I love that realization because you came from a completely unorthodox world for the most stories and journeys into this industry. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah. No, and it was literally within, I specifically felt crushed in a moment. And then almost like something inside of me was like, get up. No, this is part of it. You're going to do more of it. And actually, since that day, I never think twice about an audition.
Yeah, I love that. And let's piggyback on that real quick and talk about your number one booked it moment.
Oh, yeah.
Walk us through that day, the auditions and callbacks, if they happen to be a part of it. What was going on in your life, and what about that moment makes it your favorite booked it moment?
Okay. Booked it moment. Okay. This is good. So I was on the tour of Walking with Dinosaurs. And then this company, Creature Technologies in Melbourne, Australia, was doing a co-production with DreamWorks called How to Train Your Dragon. I was in this little group of people who still had connections with Creature Technologies, and they said, hey, you should check this out. We're going to be doing auditions for How to Train Your Dragon. And I love those movies. I absolutely love those movies. But at the time, I was living in Singapore working a gig, and the audition was in Melbourne, Australia. And I had to take so many days off, but the way that the company was, they were really bad about giving you time off. But I worked with such a good group of guys who I went to them and I said, guys, they won't give me time off. Will you guys promise me If I worked it out, so I got my 1 day off and then I had on-call days. I said, "Do not call out." And I worked with a bunch of guys who I trusted really well. So I figured it out. I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna go. If I get in trouble, I get in trouble." So I bought a ticket, flew to Melbourne, Australia, didn't really sleep the whole flight. My buddy who I knew from Australia picked me up, who was part of the team. We went to the audition site immediately. It was freezing, and I'm sitting there trying to it was in the basement of a dance studio, and I was trying to get a little bit of sleep, but couldn't. We went into the audition process, and I knew a couple of the guys there, and we went through this just crazy audition process, making dinosaurs with our hands. I hadn't slept that entire day, went through the process. It was very physical. There came a point where they said, "Okay, we need you to do a handstand from here to here, like walking on your hands."
Right.
And I couldn't do it. I was like, "No," I don't have that skill. I can't really do that." Get to the end of this audition. I spent the next 2 days with a friend who I used to live with in Singapore. Flew back home. Didn't hear anything. At the time, my partner was a costumer. She found out she got a costuming gig on that show, and I didn't hear anything.
Right.
But I knew that my partner was gonna be going to Australia, so I said, "Okay, cool. I didn't get the part, fine. I'm gonna do the process my visa, do all the steps I need to do because I'll just follow her down there, and then maybe I'll try and do some acting, or I'll just kick it around in Australia for 6 months." The day we left that gig in Singapore, so the day I left Singapore, I'm getting on the flight and I get a text message from that company and they say, "Bill, this as soon as possible." And I messaged them, like literally was getting into my seat on the plane going back to America. And I said, "Hey guys, I'm just getting on my plane back home to America. And these guys are in Australia, and I'm in Singapore at the moment." They said, "Oh, okay, great. When you get to America, let us know. But we have some good news. We want to offer you the role of
Oh, cool.
a Viking and a suit puppeteer." And it was one of those moments where it couldn't have been, I was preparing for this other thing. And the thing I'll fast forward to is because the turnaround was so quick, they wanted me in Australia a week before my partner. We had plans to go to Hawaii and visit her family, but I had to get out so quick that when I started processing and talking to the people who were processing my work visa, they said, "Oh no, we're gonna process it for you." And then they called me back and they were like, "Hey, by the way, we're having trouble with the visa." And then I wrote them and I said, "I already processed my visa. Do you guys want to use it?" Hadn't gone through, but it was almost through. I said,
Right.
I think if you use my visa, then I could come in quicker. You never know. Because I processed my own visa, it got me there on time. And then I get another week's worth of pay, or 2, 3 weeks worth of pay that I wouldn't have gotten. The thing that I liked about that is like that I just was, what's the next thing I can do? And then it actually helped me to make more money with that project.
Yeah, I love that. You just roll with the punches as life keeps giving you opportunities or giving you different circumstances. You just have to look at it consciously and say, "Oh man, what can I do with this? How do I make the most out of this?" And then just go with it.
Yep. Yep.
I love that. That is such a good story. Thank you. And let's take a moment to talk about the present. What
Yeah.
projects are you working on now? What are you looking forward to? And look, it's a crazy weird time. How do you see the entertainment industry moving forward in the next couple of years?
Okay. So what am I working on now? And nothing. It's one of those things. Honestly, like I said at the beginning, I'm back with my family. I'm taking time with them. And I know it might sound cliched, but I nothing's right now. I'm in a bit of a funk. And I've been in funks in the past. And you could maybe push yourself to do something, but if you're not inspired, what's going to come out of it? This is actually, you calling me has been great, and wanting to do this. This is actually given me a little bit of a, oh yeah, that's kind of fun. But at the same time, I'm taking time, I'm spending time with my family, trying to just take care of those things just day in and day out. There's a lot of big questions even beyond entertainment. Like you said, where is the industry going? That's a great question. At this point, I'm a kind of a slow thinker, but I would say, what am I looking forward to? I'm looking at this time for a lot of years. I've always wanted to bring theater back to South Dakota. So I'm looking at starting some improv classes, some acting classes.
All right, let's move on to one of my favorite sections in the interview. I call it the Grease Lightning Round. I am going to ask you a handful of questions. I want you to answer them as quickly and concisely as possible, one after another. Are you ready?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. First question. What was the one thing holding you back from committing to a career as an entertainer?
I think the main thing was just knowing that you could have a career as an entertainer.
Yeah. Second question. What is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
Oh, shoot. Take the note.
Take the note. Yes. Third question. What is something that is working for you now? Or if you'd like to go pre COVID, what was working for you before our industry went on pause?
Producing my own work, for sure.
Yes.
Yep.
Fourth question. What is your best resource? Whether that is a book, a movie, a YouTube video, a podcast, maybe a piece of technology you found is helping your career right now.
Oh, books, I don't get into them. Movies, I think just watching movies, rewatching scenes that you like. That's, I have my own list, but if a movie intrigued me, I would just watch it and rewatch it.
Love it. And the fifth question. If you had to start your career from scratch, but you still had all the knowledge and experience you've collected from your career in this industry, what would you do or not do? Would you do anything differently, or would you keep it the same?
Oh, the only thing I would say is maybe because if it's a redo, the thing I'd like to try and do is when I left LA in 2009, what would have happened if I would have stayed there in 2009 and just said, I'm not leaving and just stayed? I think that would
Yeah.
be a fun, not that I'm regret that's what I'd want to do, but if I had a redo, I'd be like, let's see what would happen played out with that.
And the last question. What is the golden nugget knowledge drop you've learned from your successful career in this industry you'd like to leave with everyone?
Do the thing. I've never walked out of a audition or doing anything if I did something that excited me. I've never walked out disappointed. But if I think about trying to do the thing that they want, then I might kick my butt a little bit. But if I go in and I go, yeah, that is what I wanted to do, and didn't book me or they booked me or whatever, I've always felt so much more fulfilled from that.
Yeah, there's so much to be said about that. To just do what you do. Don't try to figure out what their box is and what
Mm.
puzzle pieces they're trying to put together. Just bring you to the table, offer that. You'll feel good about it. And if it fits and it's meant to be and you fit their puzzle piece, you're great. Then you can leave confident.
And you leave confident, and I did a ton of casting director workshops before I left LA, and the biggest thing all of them would say is bring in your brand, your thing. You do the thing that you do and do it well. If you don't fit for the thing we've brought you in for, if you do your thing, and this has happened to me before, is I didn't get the part for the one, but then they were like, "Oh, that was awesome, but it doesn't fit." And then they'll bring you in for something else. They'll remember you.
Yeah, such good advice. And to wrap up this interview, Bill, it is time to give yourself a plug. Where can we find you? How do our listeners connect with you? Is there anything you want to promote?
Promote right now, nothing that I'm promoting right now, but you can find me, the best place to find me, www.eclecticbison.com. That has links to Improvinopolis, something we never got into. It just is We Equal Energy is more of a looking at like fitness through art, but it has links to stuff that I'm doing as things will come up. But no, nothing really to plug except I hope everyone's well wherever you are and wherever you're hearing this.
Beautiful. And for everyone listening out there, I've put the link to his website in the description of this episode. Bill, thank you so much for being here, taking the time to share your journey. It was a pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dane.
Thank you so much for joining us today. My one call to action for you is to go to youbookeditpodcast.com and join our free email community, where we dig deep into a continually growing resource of truly actionable things you can be doing right now to help advance your entertainment career. Don't miss an episode. We have a new guest 7 days a week. Search for You Booked It on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app and subscribe today. All the best to you. We'll see you tomorrow.